be talking about the day's top news next on Freedom. This is our time. My name's Mikhail Baranov. Hello. Last night, Russia launched 585 drones of various types, 29 cruise missiles, including K-101, Iskander-K, and Kalibr, as well as one Iskander-M ballistic missile at Ukraine. Air defense neutralized 615 aerial targets. Hits were recorded at 29 locations, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. A destroyed train station and damaged railway. These are the results of the Russian overnight attack on Fastiv in the Kyiv region. The Russian Federation Army struck the junction station with missiles and drones. According to Ukrzaliznya, the suburban station was destroyed. There was also a direct hit on the dispatch center. Immediately after the attack, several passenger train routes were changed, and some were even canceled altogether. But now, thanks to the efforts of railway workers, energy specialists, and other experts, service has been restored.
People were moved to shelters at the moment of the strike. There were no casualties at the railway junction. You can see the damage to the building. It's critical, but I'm confident we'll restore it. There will be modular structures first, and then a modern, renovated station. But right now, we're not talking about major repairs. At this moment, it's important to pragmatically create conditions for people.
3 people were injured as a result of Russia's attack on the Kyiv region. In the Vyshrad district, a fire broke out over an area of more than 5,000 square meters after a drone strike. Private homes and a gas pipeline were damaged. In the Bucha district, a private house was also affected, and in the Bielitserko district, warehouse facilities caught fire. In addition to the Kyiv region, the Dnipropetrovsk, Odesa, Mykolaiv, and Lviv regions were also under attack. In Lutsk and Dnipro, fires broke out at infrastructure facilities as a result of the attacks. Our correspondents report on the aftermath of the shelling in Ukraine.
10 Ukrainian regions came under attack by Russian forces. In most of them, there were direct hits on residential buildings, energy infrastructure, and railways. This was reported on Telegram by Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs, Ihor Klimenko.
More than 24 houses were damaged in the Kyiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Zhytomyr, and Lviv regions. At least 8 people were injured. 3 in the Kyiv region, 3 in Dnipropetrovsk, and 2 in Lviv. In Fastiv, the enemy destroyed the railway station building. In Lutsk, Dnipro, and Bielitserkova, rescuers are extinguishing thousands of square meters of warehouse space containing food and medicine. Ihor Klimenko, Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, on Telegram. In
the suburbs of Dnipro, after the attack, 1 private house was completely destroyed. Another 10 were severely damaged, and 3 people were injured. The house that was destroyed by the Russians belonged to Victor and Oksana. The man says the blast wave was so powerful that almost everything in the room fell on him.
I woke up because the curtains were on top of me. Everything, even the TV was on me. Everything was lying there. Of course, I couldn't find my slippers or anything else. So I ran across the glass, heard the gas hissing outside. In the dark, I couldn't find a flashlight or anything, so I ran to shut off the gas. I looked around, and it seemed like all the neighbors were alive.
Victor says he and his wife built this house with their own hands. And even though the panels separated from the blast, the walls held up. Now the building is in an emergency condition.
We spent 10 years building it with our own hands and lived here for 10 years, and now everything is destroyed.
Lutsk, as a result of an attack by Russian drones, a fire broke out at food warehouses. The fire covered almost 4,000 square meters. It required evacuation.
We managed to evacuate in time. We already understood that we needed to evacuate because everything was flying, everything was glowing, and there were just explosions everywhere. I don't know what's going on there or what we should do next.
The warehouse was engulfed in flames almost instantly, and almost nothing was left of the property.
I was running to work, and just then a Shahed drone was flying overhead. They started shooting it down, and there was a blast wave. I closed my eyes and lowered my head. It's scary, really scary to see it in real life.
About 50 rescuers from Lutsk and nearby settlements were involved in extinguishing the fire. The fight against the fire lasted several hours.
12 pieces of equipment were brought in, including aerial platforms and a firefighting robot. Thanks to the robot, it was possible to extinguish the fire over a large area in the middle of the building. Containment was recorded at 9:24. We have not received any information about casualties.
The Russian army also attacked Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Strikes on critical facilities were recorded in 8 regions of Ukraine. Energy workers are doing everything possible to restore electricity supply as quickly as possible. Natalia Belakodria, Natalia Gusak, and Pavel Melnichuk for Freedom TV channel.
We cannot postpone increasing pressure on Moscow. This is how Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha responded to the shelling of critical infrastructure by the Russian army. The diplomat reminded that during the night, hundreds of Russian drones and missiles caused even more destruction across Ukraine.
Russia continues to ignore any peace efforts and strikes critical civilian infrastructure, including our energy system and railways. This shows that no decisions to strengthen Ukraine and increase pressure on Russia can be postponed, and especially not under the pretext of a peace process. On the contrary, bold steps, particularly decisions to fully utilize Russia's frozen assets, are as urgent as ever. We discussed this and other necessary issues at meetings of NATO and OSCE countries. I urge our partners to implement them immediately. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on the social network X.
Ukrainian Defense Forces eliminated 1,180 Russian occupiers over the past day. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russian army losses since the start of the full-scale war have exceeded 1,179,000 soldiers. In addition, the day before, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 2 tanks, 2 armored combat vehicles, 31 artillery systems, 2 multiple-launch rocket systems, and 131 units of enemy automotive and special equipment. There were 184 combat engagements recorded on the front line over the past day. This is also information from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The most difficult situation remains in the Pokrovsk direction. There, Ukrainian Defense Forces repelled 51 attacks by Russian occupiers. And in the Alexandrovsk direction, Russian troops tried to storm the positions of Ukrainian defenders 14 times. There were 27 combat engagements on the Kostiantynivske bridgehead and 19 in the Lyman area. On the Kyiv section of the front, the Russians tried to break through the Ukrainian defenses 4 times and 7 times in the Mykolaiv area.
As for the Pokrovsk-Myrnohod agglomeration, today we can see just how much the line of combat engagement is almost blurred. Frankly speaking, there's no classic front line anymore. This affects logistics. Indeed, logistics have become more complicated. Indeed, today the enemy is doing everything possible to push us back, not only by sheer numbers of their manpower, but also by making sure our troops do not receive support, ammunition, supplies, water, as much as possible, trying to prevent any delivery of these. And accordingly, these are real attempts to cut off logistics around our agglomeration. Accordingly, this is an attempt to impact the logistics of our other sections of the front.
Today is Armed Forces Day in Ukraine. Against the backdrop of Russia's full-scale aggression, this holiday has become one of the most important of the year. It has been celebrated since 1991. That was when the parliament passed the law to create the army. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy congratulated the defenders and noted that it is they who prove Ukraine's strength.
I thank the soldiers who, on the battlefield, do everything so that Ukraine can have confidence at the negotiating table, so that we have dignity, so that we have strong arguments. Ukraine has all of this because you were here. Infantry, artillery, intelligence, airborne troops. I'm grateful to everyone. Special forces, missile troops, tank crews, drone forces, special operations forces, assault troops. We value everyone. We are proud of everyone. Each and every person who, every day, in every direction, defends Ukraine, whose courage we see and whose protection we feel.
To join efforts in prayer for Ukraine, its defenders, and the swift restoration of peace. On the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a military prayer breakfast was held in Kyiv, attended by representatives of different faiths, chaplains, servicemen, volunteers, as well as public figures and government officials. Our film crew also attended the event. For the 4th year, Ukrainians are marking the Day of the Armed Forces under the conditions of Russia's full-scale invasion. The military prayer breakfast? which took place in Kyiv on this day, has already become a tradition. Within the walls of the refectory church of the Kyiv-Pechorsk Lavra, the event brought together clergy from several denominations, chaplains, servicemen, volunteers, politicians, and foreign guests. According to Ukraine's Minister of Defense, there are 500 chaplains from 13 religious organizations serving in the armed forces of Ukraine.
They find the words to overcome pain and despair, to inspire faith and hope. Your service is a daily struggle to help us value human dignity and the inhuman conditions of war.
Andrea Stepanchek, a volunteer chaplain from Zhytomyr, has been in various units on the front line. I'm convinced that supporting the spirit of every soldier is extremely important.
We work in churches, we work with the families of fallen soldiers. Whenever possible, we try to help and serve. Supporting the military needs to be constant. A wise man once said, "The darkest night is just before dawn." I believe that everything will be all right.
The soldiers themselves confirm that any words of support help at the front. Yuri Fedorenko came to Kyiv from Pokrovsk for just one day to honor the memory of fallen comrades and pray for the living.
When it comes to the work of military chaplains, it is one of the most important, motivating, and stabilizing factors in the armed forces, because our work is extremely difficult. It must be justified both from the perspective of defending our country and from the standpoint of our inner state.
The tradition of prayer breakfasts was established in the United States more than 70 years ago. In Ukraine, the event was held for the first time in 2009. For the past several years, prayer breakfasts in Ukraine have been held under the patronage of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Today is a special day for us.
Today is a special day that has a double meaning. It is the Day of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and I congratulate you and all our soldiers on this occasion. Glory to them. Glory to all of you. Glory to Ukraine. And today is St. Nicholas Day, which is celebrated by Christians in many countries around the world, in Europe. It is the day of the miracle worker, when we all believe in miracles. Of course, today the best gift for each of us would be peace, fair and honest peace. In my opinion, it is very important that it be lasting. Only such a peace will be blessed to ensure this war is never repeated.
During the years of Ukraine's independence, we had to overcome pressure from Moscow, which did everything it could to resist the creation of a capable armed forces of Ukraine. The turning point in the history of the modern Ukrainian army was the events of 2013 to 2014. The Revolution of Dignity, the Russian occupation of Crimea, and parts of eastern Ukraine. Every day, Ukrainian soldiers defend the country's independence with weapons in hand and protect their people from the aggressor. And during the full-scale war waged by Russia against Ukraine, the armed forces of Ukraine have significantly strengthened their combat capability. And according to a ranking compiled by analysts from the Portfolio, Global Firepower, they are now among the top 20 strongest armies in the world. Victoria Chistakuna, Victor Golovko for Freedom TV channel.
Moscow is openly showing that it's not seeking peace. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy called on partners to increase pressure on the Kremlin. Commenting on the overnight Russian shelling, the Ukrainian leader noted that this attack had no military purpose whatsoever. The strikes were aimed at civilian energy facilities. The goal of the Russians is to inflict pain on millions of Ukrainians, and they have sunk this low already, so low that they launch missiles at peaceful cities on St. Nicholas Day. That is why additional pressure is needed. Sanctions must work, and our air defense must work as well. We need to maintain support for the defenders of life. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram. Negotiations to end the war will continue. This was agreed upon by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Rustem Umerov. The next round of discussions will take place today. According to the American representative, real progress toward reaching an agreement depends on Russia's willingness to demonstrate a commitment to lasting peace. Umerov, in turn, emphasized that Moscow must take steps toward de-escalation. Both sides stressed that real progress in reaching any agreements depends on Russia's willingness to demonstrate a genuine commitment to lasting peace, specifically by taking steps toward de-escalation and stopping the killing. Concrete steps toward a ceasefire and de-escalation are necessary to prevent new aggression. Rustem Umerov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.